Okay, so really good things are happening right now. Because I have not done a little check-in with the camera in a while, I'll just sit down and kind of do a little catch-up. I can sit right there on my dollhouse. So I've been getting, beginning of this year, 2023, I had kind of a slow decline into like no creative energy whatsoever. In February, I was going through some mental things. Between that and other work and responsibilities that I have, I could not like really sit down and create. I did keep up little projects here and there, like, where is it? Like this project, my watercolor journal, where I try to, not every day, sometimes more often than not, I put a little abstract watercolor piece of a scene, any scene that I remember from my day, in a very simple, like abstract, shape-focused way. So I've been keeping up with this, but that's about all I was able to do last month. But it actually has really come back and served a purpose. Now I'm in March. I've been getting a little bit better at developing like a routine for myself that works. I work an online job, and right now what works for me is to wake up, do my morning routine, and then from like 9, so far it's mostly been from 10, but I'm trying to get it from 9 to 12 where I work that job every day. After 12, I can pay attention to everything else that I do, whether it's social media, art, and commissions and things like that, or just like household responsibilities. Oh, hi, Genevieve. Hello, honey. Did you want to say hi to the camera? So for some reason, Thursdays just kind of started being my studio day, and this started like 2 weeks ago, so it's a very new thing. But Thursdays just kind of seem to be a good day for me to sit in the studio and make some art. So that's what I've been trying to do. I have a show coming up. I'm really excited because this is kind of my first show. My very first solo show was when I graduated from college. You're supposed to do a solo show at the end of your of getting a fine art major at that college. So that was my first show. That was where I showed my Memorialized series. And since then, I've been in other shows, but they've all been group shows. But I have a friend that goes to a church in Chattanooga that has a gallery, and she is friends, collaborators with the owners of that gallery. And she contacted me at the beginning of this year and said that they were super open to letting me have a show there. So that was step one, just being able to get the place. So another part of this is that my dad is a poet, and he and I have been talking for the past maybe couple years, maybe longer, about doing a painting, like visual art, poetry collab, where obviously he handles the poetry, I handle the visual art. The beginnings of that have been an Instagram account that I started, that I just find random paintings of mine and post with random poetry of his that seem to go together. So I just got kind of my foot in the door a little bit with that so that we could start doing something. But we've been talking about doing like a book together. But when this show opportunity came up, I got to thinking, I was like, this might be good stuff to put in an actual art show. And I say this might be good stuff to put in an art show. I don't actually have any art, or I didn't have any art yet that actually, oh no, Genevieve. I didn't have any art that was actually like ready to go in a show whenever she first gave me this opportunity. But I thought it would be cool, and I thought, you know, I will make this the year that I'm actually gonna go for this project, and this show will be a good motivator to get me to actually do that. So that's the backstory. And then having no creative energy at the beginning of this year was frustrating, especially having that show coming up. And I have another show that's I'm doing a bigger kind of installation sculptural piece for in September, and then other little things along the way. So having little to no creative energy is frustrating and a little bit worrisome, but it generally always comes back for me. It hasn't gone away for like too crazy long before, so I knew it'd probably come back, and I knew it was also directly related to like the emotional problems that I was going through. So it is back, and I'm very happy, and I've been working Thursdays to try to brainstorm for this show. I have my little show shrine back there, right there. I wanted to lay everything out so I could see it all together and maybe help myself brainstorm and just get a clearer vision for the show. I often have tried in the past to develop a meaning before I develop the art for that meaning, and I find that usually doesn't work at all. Even though I have my dad's poetry as the subject matter for this show, he has like files upon files of poems that he's written, so I have to actually like develop a line that kind of goes through the poetry that I choose and the art that I create in response to that poetry. So I do still have to kind of come up with that overall theme. But yeah, I found that trying to think about the theme or the meaning or whatever before you create, at least for me, doesn't work. I just have to create. So the first day that I was thinking about the show, I experimented with charcoal and water, and I got this cool little effect with a fan brush going. I would like really, so I would tape a shape onto the paper, then really rub the charcoal into that shape until it got like super opaque, super thick, and then take the tape off, use the fan brush to go through the charcoal, make random little lines and stuff. And I did that a bunch. I really had fun with that, and I'm still planning to do more of those. Don't know if it'll go on the show, but it was a fun experiment and it felt very poetic to me. And I think that's what I've come to. Today I realized that my art doesn't have to have like an obvious connection or an obvious meaning to the poetry. What I'm after is something that feels poetic, and it will mean something to me, and the audience, when they look at it, it can mean something to them based on their own perspective, based on, like, I want the audience to draw their own conclusions when they read the poetry and they see the work. I want it to speak to them and help them to think and reflect. And so I'm going after poetic art. So that charcoal experiment was the first day. The second day I got to sit down and work on things. I did this painting and a watercolor piece. And the watercolor piece and the one with the orange fence are based on some of the pieces I did in this book. My downtime with art, even though it was hard to find creative energy, I still was making something that would be useful in the future. This piece and this piece inspired those two. I might end up adding this shadow to that orange fence piece. I'm not totally sure about that yet. I really like these pieces. I knew that when I started this watercolor project, I do want this to turn into a full show. I didn't realize I would be using it so soon though. So that was a good day. The other piece is referenced from a photo that I took of my sister last year when she was just on her phone, and the lighting was so cool. So I painted that. I don't know if I'm finished with it yet, but I started on that. Today, I got back and tried to get back into the swing of things, put on some nice piano music, and I've been kind of playing around with some things. What I started off doing is working with a dollhouse. I currently have 4 dollhouses because last year I decided that I want to make a miniature gallery with a dollhouse. I haven't gotten around to making the miniature gallery yet. They've just been sitting on my table here, but it's another one of those things where like I had another idea for these dollhouses, just like for the watercolor paintings, and one of them has actually come in use for this show. It may not be in the final show, but the making needs to come first. The creative output needs to come and the inspiration will follow. And so I'm just playing around. The dollhouse will correspond again with another one of the pieces from this watercolor book. I just feel like everything in here looks so poetic, and that's why I think it's really good material to take from for this show. I want the dollhouse to, my first idea at least, is to have the dollhouse be painted completely black on the outside. I'll probably spray paint it white on the inside because currently it is supposed to look like a schoolhouse, and I don't want that. And then have a light within it, a nice yellow light, or maybe I'll put yellow paper on the windows, and then whatever light is in there will look yellow coming out. I love looking at houses at night and seeing the warm light coming out of the houses. It's the contrast between that and like the dark night outside with just this immense void. Being outside at night feels scary, but like almost in a good way. It's very beautiful, it's It's very immense. It's just, yeah, it's a whole experience. And then the contrast of being outside at night, the darkness outside, with the warmth coming from a house. And not to sound creepy, but like you occasionally will see, like it might be the window to a dining room and you'll see a family sitting down to eat supper or something. Like the warmth of that contrasted with the coldness and vastness of night is something that is really poetic to me. And I think this would absolutely be a perfect piece for the show. I have a bunch of dried plants and flowers. I'm gonna incorporate those. I have this wood piece that I found while I was out with my fiance one day last year, and it looks like a bunny, and I've just kept it in my art studio for this whole time, but I might put this in the show. And then I have this little painting I did of me and my dad. So I'm finding things are coming together, and I'm getting excited, and I'm really starting to see this come together, and it just feels good to be creating in the studio. So I think that was all I wanted to say. Yeah, that's my update.